people come across different struggles, such as trying to start a family. Going through menopause is a hot topic for some.
Welcome to the Bold Brand Show. If you're in the AEC industry and want to grow your firm, we're sharing exactly how bold and innovative firms win more. The sad truth is, most firms that are struggling in the AEC industry are still doing things the way we've always done them. But this show is about finding a better way. I'm your host and founder of Bold Brand, Josh Miles. I'm a published author, veteran of the TEDx stage, and a brand strategist with over 25 years of experience. But my superpower is my focus on AEC firms to understand how branding and marketing in the professional services industries is wildly different than for retail brands like Apple, Amazon, or Starbucks. So in this podcast, we're going deep with AEC firm leaders, marketers, and innovators in the AEC industry. We'll focus on the hottest topics and trends in AEC to uncover the growth secrets of the most successful firms and how firms can create lasting legacies and perhaps what the future has in store. I've got a special deal to share with you from my friends at BizNow. I regularly hit up BizNow events here in Denver, and honestly, they're my go-to for networking in commercial real estate and AEC. Each month, they pull together these great panels with heavy-hitting speakers who actually know what's happening right now in different markets. Not just theory, but real deals and trends. What's cool is they're not just a Denver thing. They run these events across the country. So if you're looking to stay on top of market shifts or want to connect with people making moves in CRE, it's worth checking out. If you're interested, check out BizNow. That's biznow.com/events to see what's coming up. You can use the code BOLD, that's BOLD, when you register to save 15% on your ticket. Trust me, the connections you'll make are worth it. Special thank you to BizNow.
We've got a great panel, What's Working in Innovative Recruitment Strategies for AEC Firms. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Josh Miles, and he'll be telling you about the rest of the panelists in just a moment. Please join me in welcoming Josh Miles along with Emily Robillard, Jaime Clark, and Nicole La for our panel.
Please help me in welcoming, first up, Jaime Clark. Jaime's the founder of Denver-based ArmourSash, a full-service marketing agency serving the AEC industry, and she brings over a decade of experience in the field. Her background includes 8 years with an acoustical engineering firm as an owner partner in Denver, Seattle, and Honolulu markets, along with experience at a mid-sized general contractor. Jaime holds a Master of Arts in Information and Learning Technologies and a Bachelor of Science in Business from the University of Colorado. Please welcome Jaime Clark. Next up, Emily de Robillard. Emily is the HR director at Delve Underground with over 12 years of experience in the engineering industry. She's passionate about empowering and developing people she works with and wants to raise awareness of how human resources can help break down barriers and be champions of change. Emily is from Australia and just moved over to the US to San Francisco for this role, where she was HR manager for Australia and New Zealand. We will do our best to translate for Emily if you can't understand in her Australianese what she's saying today, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. Please welcome Emily. And last but not least, please welcome Nicole La. Nicole began her AEC career in 2008 as marketing coordinator at a San Francisco architecture firm. She joined TCOM, a technology consulting firm, in 2011 and quickly rose from senior marketing coordinator to marketing director, known for her strategic leadership and creative direction. Nicole joined the leadership team in 2018 as principal executive vice president. Today, she leads marketing, recruiting, and people operations at TCOM, guiding strategy and operations for a fully remote global team. Under her leadership, TCOM has been recognized as a great place to work 3 years in a row. Please welcome Nicole La. And that's the most that I have to talk all day until my next session that's immediately after that. That's another blank. So hello, friends. Welcome to TalentMAX. We are here to draw all of your genius out and share with our friends here. Maybe Nicole, we'll start out with you on this one. When we're thinking about what can be done to promote the participation and success of new workers starting their engineering careers,
Yeah. So when I think about new professionals starting their career, it's all about building a network. We are in a people industry, whether you're in a marketing team, a technical team, or an engineering team, it's all about people, building your network. And I've been in this industry 17 years, and Josh and I met through SMPS, and that's where a lot of my marketing and network is. But when you are building your career, it's important to establish those relationships early, because as you progress in your career, you're going to advance. I'm now part of the leadership team. And now I have friends that are also on executive leadership teams and directors and kind of decision makers. So if you can build your network early and then nurture that network, it will pay dividends through your whole career.
My best friend and I always talk about, like, if I had to start over, like, what would I do? And build the network is always the start of that answer. Jamie, what would you add to that?
So I think if I was going to help new workers settle in, I would say coaching, lots of coaching. And if that is not your expertise, find someone who can help with that, because I think really giving them a subject matter expert right where they are, so that they can say, I'm maybe new here, but I'm the SME who understands what it is to be straight out of undergrad and here in this company. And then coaching them into how do they find that voice? How do they, come up with a white paper from their perspective? And then I would say for the company's advantage too, help them do that online, especially through their LinkedIn profile, because that is going to give the company the exponential reach of that person's audience and so on and so forth. So it's really benefiting everyone involved, but that obviously then would lead into the rest of their networking, their, promotion throughout the company. Yeah, lots of coaching.
Emily, let's see if the audience can understand your answer in Australian.
I think back to when you first started and having opportunities, but giving that mentoring and coaching, say yes to everything, give it a go. I think can-do attitude. You might have the highest degree, but if you don't have a can-do attitude, you're not going to get far, and you'll wonder why you're maybe not being promoted or picked for that team or project. And I think that's something really important to be instilled if you do have a hunger and drive to get a really good salary increase or that, as I said, that promotion. So I think that's something that should be helped and encouraged.
I started working and consulting with firms in AEC right around when the housing market crashed, which was like really great timing to focus on that as an industry. But one of the things that a lot of my clients noticed was they were losing talent from AEC. They were going to tech, they were going to social media, they were going to startups. And we lost a lot of like early, smart, technical talent. How can the engineering field attract and retain a broader range of talent today? Nicole, do you want to start off with that one?
One of the big initiatives that I have done in my career was build awareness. And so when I was a marketing grad at SFSU, I, found a random job at an architecture firm. I had no idea the AEC industry even existed. And so one of my core initiatives was like, I need to go back and talk to the students. Like, where are they? And I would go back every single year. I would present to the different organizations and tell them that this career is available for them. And they didn't even know it existed. And so I think having a really good internship program will help attract them into that. But then just kind of bringing them to an event, like bringing them along, like they're nervous. They don't know, like to have that like buddy system, say, I see that you could come to this event. I'm going to bring you with me, and just kind of bringing this awareness. I had multiple students that I helped build careers in the industry, and now they're like decision makers at big architecture and GC firms. And they remember that I cared and I took that time to go and talk to them and help them with their career.
It is a really rewarding thing to see people that you brought into the feel at the young level to see them kind of rising up.
It's a huge joy to watch someone's career thrive and knowing that they wouldn't even be here if you didn't take that extra step.
And I think you can offer a next level of trying to attract. I went to a university day with nearly graduates there, and they're like, how do we stand out from the crowd on our resume? And I feel like that opportunity isn't given to those on the cusp of going to work at a real job. And how do you stand out? And I'm like, well, and I've got no experience. And I said, well, what do you do in your spare time? And she said, oh, I'm a pro skateboarder. I'm like, put that on your resume because you're competitive. you know how to win, you know how to lose, you know how to work with people, take directions. I mean, sports coaching, volunteering for, engineering societies at university and all of that. They're all things that make who you are and you can bring to the table rather than listing, I like going on hikes or going to the movies. So I think there's an opportunity and then you're going to be remembered as that person helping. So, yeah.
Do you want to add to that?
I think supporting the human motivators, right? So yeah, they want to get out, they want to meet people, but if they're extremely introverted, they're going to be afraid to go to the event. So finding, there was somebody I worked with once and he would just rather, do his engineering at his desk head down, but I knew he had the answers that I needed when I was doing business development. And so I'd just be human to him and say, hey, you know what? I don't want to go alone to this event tonight. Could you come with me, hold a drink, stand next to me? But if somebody asks me the question that I don't know the answer to, could you just help me out? It was amazing for the company, for the business. Yeah.
That's awesome. Emily, maybe we start this one with you. How can we create a workplace that supports work-life balance, mental health, and overall well-being?
So I think we can do better, and I think we are doing better in regards to how we tackle everyday issues. But it's more that, we're not the Department of Human Remains and shouldn't be the last stop for the employee who's nearly out the door. I do think we need to get in front and help guide engineers who studied engineering or architecture, try and help them be people leaders. They didn't get a degree in that, whereas we did. And we can really help support and go through different methods of how to become a better leader. But looking at different initiatives. So in Australia, we've got Are You OK Day, which is a mental health initiative, and it's simply asking someone, are you okay? And it gives them it's aimed at supervisors, managers, leadership, giving them resources on how, if someone did come up to you, what would you respond back and what are the steps? And it's a 5 sort of step process to not help and be the therapist for that individual. We don't want that. It's leave it up to the professionals, but it's more directing them to the EAP or, maybe you should go and see your medical provider, but also just being that ear to listen. And that's maybe what they need. It's not solving their problem, but they just need to talk. But I think breaking down the stigma around mental health has definitely changed and changing with each generation. I do think it's a top-down approach where, we're seeing a CEO open up about the struggles of mental health, but then as we're navigating multi-generational workforce, people come across different struggles such as trying to start a family, going through menopause is a hot topic for some. and so that stigma associated with it now versus 5, 10, 15 years ago has definitely changed. And I think that, we can look at how we can support and develop benefits that really fit the different generations and time through people's careers versus a one-size-fits-all approach. So,
I would add to that you never know what is happening in people's personal lives. And people can be going through something really intense and you will have no idea in the workforce. And so how can you support them without knowing, right? And so a couple things that we did at TCOM was we transferred into we used to have the accrual PTO process. Now we have a responsible time off process. And so it's responsible, but you can take the time that you need. If you need to go to a doctor's appointment, or if you need to just take a personal day, like you can take those days and no one is going to bat an eye at you and you're not going to get dinged on your PTO balance, right? All we ask is that you are responsible, right? You're not leaving a team during a major deliverable or a big client meeting and you just checked out. Like you have to be responsible to take that time. But it has really transformed kind of the culture of our company. And then flexing hours. Josh said that we're a 100% remote company, about 150 people all across the US and the UK. So we're in a ton of time zones. People are traveling. And, I have 2 young kids and sometimes I need to go pick them up from school or go to a soccer game, or I'm able to enjoy all of those moments without feeling like I can't. And the other point there is I'm on the executive leadership team. I'm being a role model to my entire team by taking that time and by flexing my hours. So we really encourage it from lead by example.
Yeah, and I think I would add with that an acronym that I like to teach my teams in that, I think the mental health education is where it's at, because once you understand what is the mental health and how do people suffer at different stages of their life or different things that we don't know they're going through, the acronym HALT, and it's hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. And before you lash out, if you're feeling that, what is the underlying issue? Because if you can identify in your own self, why am I being triggered? You can then rationalize and adjust your reaction accordingly. And the other thing I like to teach my teams is what is a projection? Because often when people are upset, the words that they're going to say to you, at you, about you reflects more about their own selves or what they're going through. And just to be able to have compassion when somebody's lashing out at you, and then you can maybe identify oh, they said this to me. Maybe it's something to do with them. It just takes the edge off and makes everybody a little bit more calm.
What if you find that you're hungry, angry, lonely, and tired all at the same time?
Right? Call a friend. Yes.
I was going to say being hangry is a real thing.
Yes, it's a real thing.
Most of those things.
Yeah.
How do we, Nicole, maybe let's start with you on this one. How do engineering organizations foster employee engagement, job satisfaction, and a sense of purpose in staff?
Yeah, I would say it's all about the people, right? And we really have to focus on what their needs are. And everyone has different needs, right? So an employee engagement could be getting feedback on a daily or weekly basis. Engagement could be just listening and kind of understanding what they're going through. We have lots of tools to measure engagement, right? We do an annual Great Place to Work survey. We have an engagement tool called Office Vibe that we're always using. But stay interviews, the morning session, we talked about stay interviews. So there's always little tools that we can do to check in on people. And engagements, one day you're going to be engaged and the next day you're not, right? It ebbs and flows, and that's okay. I think as people managers, we need to understand kind of that emotional intelligence piece to really help them stay engaged.
And I think with engagement, rethink everything. I think if you can flip the script and keep it exciting and then play into those human needs, Amazon Spheres has a great example of this. And I understand that's like all the money, all the capabilities, but you can scale down locally. But the Spheres are at the base of the towers in Seattle, but they're greenhouse domes. And in there, they have 40,000 plants from 30 plus countries. You walk in and you see a waterfall, and what your brain doesn't notice is that as you go around this large open space, you still hear the waterfall that they're projecting throughout the space. You only saw it one time. And so that's an example of maybe in your office, how could you use a little water feature, but then let the ambiance flow through? And the Spheres has, rocks for you to sit on to collaborate with your team. You can go up into these large wooden nests and have a full meeting. I mean, it really is the top tier of how do we flip the script and redesign the workspace so that it really is meeting that human need to connect with nature, to feel relaxed, and just understanding that, yes, you're not always going to feel engaged, but how could we guide the path to show them, hey, we have a workout room downstairs and it's not musty and gross, and we went the extra mile to give you some music or a TV, or, I think just making it a little bit better goes a long, long way.
While she was saying that, was anybody else picturing Biodome with Pauly Shore and Brendan? Because that's all I can picture when I hear that. When I hear the story. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Emily, anything you want to add to that?
I think in regards to what Nicole was saying, people are the number one priority, and we don't have companies if we don't have people. And I think having people at the forefront that you're a name, not a number, and keeping that mentality. And we can talk about the Spheres and all these smoke and mirror type approaches, but I also think having, those small, you might think insignificant approaches, like, a senior member of staff asking a junior member of staff, hey, could you help me out with this, goes a long way, because, oh my gosh, that principal asked me. But more what we do at Delve Underground, we encourage people, everyone in the company, to go and visit some of our work sites and see the projects that, tunnel designs, and go and walk. And I was down 511 feet on our site in New York underground, which was a very long way down, but it was fun. And walking tunnels is a really cool experience. So actually, but then that helps get employees engaged and see what we were able to achieve, whether it's someone invoicing for that project. Oh, I helped get paid. So, from that project, which is a good idea. But then developing soft skills, I think there's that real thirst for it, and initiatives like public speaking we did at Delve Underground. We called it YACS, which is Young, Articulate, Knowledgeable Speakers. And it was more of a confidence development opportunity, but then it led into mock client meetings. And having, a senior member of staff be the client and helping navigate difficult conversations, because you've got to learn it, and that's a safe environment to learn it, rather than being put in front, a deer in headlights, in front of the client. So I think little things like that can also help with engagement. Yeah.
I don't think it has to be just HR, just talent managers who are doing this work within our firms. I think there's a lot that we can, Nicole in particular, since you oversee like a third of the company or whatever that was, marketing and talent and recruitment. So how might other departments play a role in HR initiatives or open positions, or what does that look like for you since you are overseeing?
Yeah. I would say recruiting is marketing, period. And like I said, my background is in marketing, and we were in a really kind of pinnacle point at our company where we were going to, a big client wanted us to grow. And we didn't have the infrastructure in place to grow with our recruiting. And so my CEO came to me and said, Nicole, you do a fantastic job in marketing. I want you to take over all of recruiting. And I was like, I don't know recruiting. I don't do this. What are you talking about? And the more I researched it and learned about it, it was just marketing for people. I had to tell a brand. I had a story and a brand, and I was talking to candidates instead of clients, right? And so it's more marketing than you think. And then operations and building a plan and our strategy and how we're going to get to the right candidates, and then building an interview process. It took the entire executive leadership team to help build the program. And it's crazy today because I started with about 30 people, or like I said, almost 150-ish across the whole US. I have 2 internal recruiters that are focused on recruiting. And I was telling you guys just this week that we developed a program to actually outsource our recruiting team. And so they are now going to our partners, and our partners are asking us to help them with their recruiting. And I think it's just kind of incredible how we can build something from nothing, and now it's actually revenue generating. But the other piece is, because I lead marketing, recruiting, and people ops, we do daily huddles every single day. So we all get into a Zoom. We talk about what we're working on for that day. And if the recruiting team's struggling, maybe getting candidates or whatever it may be, our marketing team can say, well, I have a piece of content I'm going to repurpose on social today. Or let me go talk to the subject matter expert. I'm going to build you a blog post that you can send to this candidate, right? So we're constantly connecting the dots between the two, kind of all the different groups that we have. And I'm still an InDesign pro, so all of our recruiting documentation looks really kind of on point. But it's one brand throughout everything we do at TCOM.
Is it still under the TCOM brand when you're doing the external recruiting?
We've branded it TCOM Connectors.
Okay.
Yeah.
We just did a marketing exercise where our chief strategy officer, Frank, he is, and Janine have been leading a seller doer training, but it's looking at, the life cycle of, getting a proposal out and going through that. But I'm like, how can we apply that to recruiting? And so we're talking the same language, and consistency, I think, is really important across all levels.
I think the other thing to add is, I talked about the communication between recruiting and marketing, but recruiting and our people ops team is also super critical, right? Because the candidate experience, those candidates are going to become employees, right? So how do we make sure that candidate experience is kind of followed through to the employee experience, from onboarding to training to kind of getting integrated into the culture? And so it's kind of really cool to have all 3 of these departments kind of under one kind of operation.
I think you're right, Nicole. I think it's a client journey, but it's your recruitment journey, right? And I feel like it does make sense to map that out and to understand, the go home and apply to the job that you're in. Like, what would that look like? What does it feel like? How can you make it better? And Emily, you said something that made me think about activity that Frank does, and it's a BD live role play. But what it essentially does is it allows people to see the obvious, but when you act it out, you really start to notice those, intricacies of what could happen or how could this go really poorly. And he sets up the stage and has people pretend to do a bad job of business development. And it's hilarious, but I feel like the role play is setting up the brain to have that automatic response that can be set up for, rather than a failure, a success.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated either. I had a client, this was, probably 10 years ago. They were in Portland and San Francisco, an engineering firm. And even back then, when they would have a job posting go live, they would work with the marketing team to say, hey, can we promote this type of service on social media to make sure that the images and the things we're talking about on social for the next 2 weeks. So when a candidate says, hey, well, I'm going to apply for this technical position, and they go to look at your social feed, that they see evidence that you actually do that kind of work. It seems really straightforward, but even back then I was like, that's really genius. All right. I'm kind of a nerd. I like thinking about the future. I've always been kind of like, it's easier for me to see 5 years down the road than the next 5 things I'm supposed to do today. So I like thinking about the future, and I'm curious if any of you have a hot take on the future of recruiting. Emily, you want to start us off?
I don't have so much of a hot take. I've got more hot questions of what if, more rhetorical questions. So like if companies are encouraging staff to come back to the office, those big companies, what happens to those employees, if we all start to go back to the BC before COVID model, it's looking at where are all these candidates going to go, and are they not going to apply for those jobs that have, full-time back in the office or, a little bit of hybrid. I think that model has to find a nice balance rather than making people come 5 days a week, which is going to change the landscape of recruiting moving forward. I think is headhunting still being headhunted? Is that still flattering, or to younger generations being approached versus maybe them swiping left or right on a potential company? Is that changing and evolving with the different generation? And then my final question is how far down the AI process does the recruitment process go before you actually talk to a human person? I remember going for an interview, but it was all video where you had to answer the questions within, it was probably 30 seconds, but felt like 10 seconds you lost the whole feel of, well, if this is what the company is going to be like, no person asking you questions, do I really want to work, especially being a people person? That's something that I don't want to represent the company. And is that going to change as we go? Yeah, I don't know if that helps, but it's just thinking forward rather than knowing what's in the future. We haven't got our crystal balls to look. Yeah.
I would add to that, the question was a hot take on recruiting, right? And I would say it's building non-transactional relationships. And what I mean by that is if you are just waiting for an open rec to become available, and then you build your job description, you put it out there, and you just hope and wait that perfect candidate is going to apply, it's probably not the right strategy. And the approach that we've taken is we actually don't like it when a lot of people apply to our roles, because then it takes a lot of time and you're having to weed through all the different candidates. And it's so much work to try to find a quality candidate in a mix of hundreds, right? And so we focus on targeting candidates that we see, like quality, high candidates that we know are going to be able to come in and do the job. And then we build relationships with them. So back to that marketing mentality, right? You build relationships with clients before, all these big projects are coming on board. Well, with recruiting, you're going to want to build relationships with people before the open rec is even there. One really great win that I'm super proud of our team was we had a new rec came available. It's for a healthcare senior engineer position. They had to be in the big room in San Francisco, had to commute. This is a needle in a haystack candidate, right? It's going to take time to find the right person. We didn't have time, right? The project is going. We got to get someone in soon. we were able to fill that role in 2.5 weeks. And so the second the position became available, my recruiting team says, I have people in mind. I already know who I'm calling. They were able to make a couple quick calls and get them into process immediately. But the recruiters on our team are constantly talking to these people, right? They have snooze buttons in our applicant tracking system. Says, okay, Josh doesn't want to be talked to right now. I'm going to put a reminder. I'm going to call Josh in 6 months, see where Josh is at, right? So you're constantly having these touch points with candidates that you actually become friends with them. You're building that non-transactional relationship with them. You're going to conferences. You're connecting with them to different people. And so you have this pipeline of candidates that's deep, it's rich, and you have relationships that at any point open recs come, you have people to call to.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Thinking about it almost like it's a business development role.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling our panel, I think last night, we've been hanging out this whole week. So we've had all these conversations already. So we just to revisit all of them. We were talking about how in my former agency, we only had like 20 some people that worked there, but I would interview somebody almost every week. So when it was time for us to go find somebody, I knew at least where to start. And I could reach out to that person and say, hey, we're hiring for this role. I just want to pick your brain. Do you know anybody that might be a good fit for this? Knowing that that person was also maybe a good fit.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to make that direct ask of like, hey, would you be interested in applying? And continue to think about it as like, I'm doing the research, I'm doing the business development piece of this, creating those relationships and building that network.
Yeah.
I also think referrals are really key, and involving, your team to, hey, build your connections, or, if you've got people that you want to bring along with you, because you're not going to recommend someone that's not a good hire. So I think encouraging that as well, that's a form of keeping people warm for future hires.
Okay.
And I think the future of recruiting too is going to move, in the AI direction. So, along with becoming a subject matter expert on your LinkedIn, living what you do and where you aspire to be, very important if you want to communicate the message that, hey, someday I do want to be the CEO of this type of company, and just keep that digital trail of where you at now, or do you want to go, and what do you like to talk about?
Anything else that you'd like to weigh in on the AI side, and especially around retaining?
Retaining, TCOM has 2 priorities for our company this year. The first one is building non-transactional relationships, whether it's with clients or candidates or team members. The second one is documentation. And so we have a robust documentation effort going on right now. And we are holding everyone accountable to helping build our documentation. But really the goal of that intense effort is to have an AI tool that we can pull upon and say, okay, I need to know, what is TCOM's go, no go process? And it pulls it up. Everything is right there for you, right? And so it is hard to build this type of documentation that we're trying to do. But it's going to pay dividends for us in the future.
If somebody wanted to take a first step towards building that documentation, what would you recommend?
The first step, just do it. Write down what you know. Honestly, that's what we tell our engineers. Yes, we have a story. Yes, we have the process of how it gets approved and published. But at the end of the day, we are 100% remote. We don't have any shoulders to tap on, right? We have Slack and we have people available, but because we allow you to flex your hours, maybe that person's not online when you need help. And so the more we can write down, the more we could have that asynchronous work environment to have RTO and take time off. And so just write it down. That would be my tip to anyone to start, because it's going to take iterations, right? Especially HR processes or people op processes, it takes time to evolve and use them. don't write it down to never look at. You have to write it down, look at it, use it, refine it. Then you can build out training programs and really kind of be that core place where people go to look for things.
Emily, the AEC market traditionally, when it comes to differentiation and standing out in the market, like you ask any firm principal 20 years ago, they'd say, we've got the best people. And well, what is your competitor saying? We've got the best people too, right? Or we've got the resumes, we've got the technical experience. How do you see what Delve is doing to stand out in the market, to differentiate, to really attract talent?
What sets us apart is we are a niche market and we're known for our technical capabilities and all that goes along with it. Some of the infrastructure projects that we've designed and been part of are really cool. But I think what sets us apart in the industry, and I think moving through the industry, is, building up people leaders and the real thirst for soft development of soft skills. I think there's a real drive across, and it's really exciting as a non-technical person to see people embrace that. So I think we're really trying to push and engage with that part of the component. But then, from a technical perspective, what training and development technically, and exposing our team to events to help them build networking, as well as developing technical expertise and become subject matter experts is something that really attracts people to come work with us. And tunneling industry is a very small industry. Everyone knows everyone, regardless of what country you're in. So, yeah.
Anyone else want to weigh in on the differentiation and standing?
Yeah, I would say being fully remote is something that it's not for everyone, right? Some people want to be in an office and they have self-selected out, and that's okay. We're okay with that. But on the flip side, we have people calling us saying, please, please, please interview me because I love that flex work, fully remote work schedule. And we still have fun, right? We still see each other in person. It's not like we're just always, Zoom face. We get together every year. Our teams get together, but it's not in a conference room, right? It's outside. Last year, my team and I went to South Lake Tahoe, and we went horseback riding, and we went on the lake, and we did a 10-mile hike. And I was telling you guys this week that my kids love Bluey. And one of the things that they say in Bluey was, we can do hard things. And so I'm on this 10-mile hike. My team was tired. I was like, we can do hard things. And so we're climbing this mountain together. And by the time we were done, it brought us so much closer. And we were able to say, okay, now we can go home in our home offices. We can do the work that we need to do. But we were able to build true relationships with our team members. And so when we tell that story to our candidates, they love it. They think it's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think with the differentiation, I think just taking the time to truly listen matters a lot. And I think that the kiss of death phrase is, this is how we've always done it. And in AEC, I've heard that a lot of times from a lot of people. And instead of hearing, what does that young generation want? What are they looking for? Because we can't guess out what everybody needs. And so just sitting and having the conversation, maybe creating a committee. Yeah.
Yeah, well, boomers shouldn't be saying, I think the younger engineers want to do this. I was like, how about us, the younger engineers, what they want to do? Let's start there.
Yeah, we have a culture committee at TCOM that has a member from every team for that reason, right? Because if you're the people team, HR team in a corner kind of saying, this is what everyone wants and we're going to roll it out, but you never ask them, like, it just doesn't work.
Great. Full splat.
Emily, speaking of the boomers and other generations, we're going to lump everybody in here. How are the changes that you're making today at Delve Underground going to impact that next generation of leadership at your firm or the industry as a whole?
Yeah. So obviously, there's engagement surveys are looking, but it's more how is the company embracing this change with succession planning and looking at those emerging leaders as well as emerging subject matter experts, just because, you might not want to be a leader means you shouldn't be left behind, because not everyone is a leader or has leadership qualities, and that's okay. But I think, we've got to maintain, because you still need doers across to do the work. You've got great people finding work and then able to do it, but you also need those doers. So I think as we move through how younger generations interface and work, and whether it's coming into the office or working from home and the preference there, I think it's important to be able to be flexible and have different streams rather than, hey, everyone, attend this emotional intelligence workshop and you're all going to be active listeners and able to articulate and smile as you talk and all these things, which can be quite daunting for some people that don't want to do that. So I think it's going to be a shift in how we work across the industry, which hopefully, again, we're not cookie cut, and it's important that, you're able to be yourself and bring your true self to work.
Anybody else want to weigh in on the generational question? Well, in that case, Nicole, what strategies or tactics or trends do you see that are driving the most applicants right now?
Driving the most applicants. Well, it doesn't really apply for us because I told you we don't actually want people to apply. And so, like I said, our strategy is passive candidates. TCOM has a very robust interview process, and we tell them upfront before they even get into the interview process, this is going to take 6 to 8 hours of your time. But every single interview has a purpose, and it's a chance for them to interview us just the same. And so because they're passive, sometimes they're like, yeah, I'm happy where I'm at. I don't really want to look. And our job is to say, well, just give us an interview, just talk to our team, right? And so we get that little, can get them into the process. And then they're like, okay, well, this sounds interesting. Let me learn more, right? So now they're in our process. And so every single stage, our recruiter preps them before the interview. He tells them what they can expect. And then after the interview, our recruiter says, okay, what did you learn? How do you feel about it? Do you want to proceed? And it's this constant kind of pulse check that our recruiter walks them through the entire interview. And then by the time they get to that final interview, we do something pretty unique. It's called top grading. And so we do this top grading approach. It's a 90-minute interview. Our CEO asks you the same questions, and you could be a junior engineer to a CFO. We ask the same exact questions, and the CEO is asking these questions, by the way. And someone's taking notes, someone's observing, and they get through this interview, and it's just about, where did they go to high school? And, if you were to go on project site and someone changes something on your design, how would you react to that? Right? So it's these true kind of questions that get a sense of who that person is. And by the end of the interview, because we have this warm, long lead up time, they are devastated if they don't get an offer to TCOM. So you take a passive candidate who's not looking because they're usually loyal, right? They've had upward mobility. They are that true A player that you're looking for. A players aren't putting 10 jobs out and looking for jobs. So finding that person and then having a true interview process to get them really excited to join the team at the end.
Jamie, I know you didn't always start in AEC. You were in tech before this. What do you think the tech industry was getting correctly with recruitment and retention when you were there?
Yeah. So funny story, actually. I was doing the SME thing on my social media, and I was putting out tidbits of tech stuff that was trending. This is, 10 plus years ago. And they were stalking me. And so I had them come in through the DMs, which of course I thought was spam right away. But similarly, they were seeking me out and they realized, hey, this marketer is talking our talk. And so when I finally did look up the company, hey, I'm real. Look us up here. I recognized somebody in Denver and I was like, oh, they are real. So reached back out to him, and they had the most relaxed, inviting process. I went to their office. They just called a bunch of people in, and they didn't sit at the board desk and make me feel weird. They piled on chairs and grabbed bean bags, and everybody had a copy of my resume, and everyone was allowed to ask me whatever they want, and they got curious, and it just left me feeling I want to be part of this team. Yeah, they got it right.
Very cool. I know we want to leave a couple minutes for questions here at the end. So before we wrap up here, does anybody have a burning great tip that they want to add here, or any parting thoughts for the audience?
I would just say it's always about people, right? We are a people operations. We are always looking out for our people. It's building relationships, whether it's a candidate relationship, an employee relationship, or a client relationship. We are just in a relationship business, professional services firms. We wouldn't be here without our people. And so whether, AI is a big topic and different engagement tools, and there's a tool for anything that you could do out there, right? And then you have too many tools and you're like, okay, how do I pare this back? And so, don't worry about the tool or AI or what's going on. It's truly, it's not rocket science. It's people.
One thing that I think I always feel energized when I come to a conference and I leave thinking, yep, I can do this and this, but really being champions of change, whether it's something small and change, advertising, hey, go out to site to see this project, or, we're going to do the engagement survey like this, or we're going to change performance reviews or anything like that. I think allowing change, and whether it works or not, you learn from it, but at least you can champion it and say, this is what I've achieved and helped, and that's your legacy. So,
and I would say get curious and stay curious, and don't assume at whatever level you're at that you know everything or that you understand those that are coming up behind you. Ask questions and listen.
Any places to connect with all of you on social? Any websites or calls to action here?
Yes, please connect.
Yeah. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we want to leave a few minutes for Q&A. If you'd like to share this conversation with your firm, this episode will be live in a couple weeks over at boldbrand.show, or you can search YouTube for Bold Brand Show as well. And we've got a little bit of time for a few questions from the audience. But before we do that, give our panel a warm thank you. Round of applause. Any questions in the room? I know Pete's got a mic back here. Everyone is calling.
I got one I'll start with here while we're working the room.
Thanks, Pete.
One of the things I see that's a real differentiator in recruiting programs are firms that are able to grow without talent being a bottleneck. is that early stage internship, co-op kind of program, sometimes reaching as far back as the high school level. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing on the internship side to sort of generate interest early?
We have a really good internship program. What we've done recently is we took a group, I think they were university students, we took a group out to one of our sites to show them, they looked at the tunnel designs, but then they actually went and saw how it is in real life. So I think, engaging and allowing an opportunity to see that, I think, is really good, because it's one thing being an intern and sitting in the corner and doing filing, or we don't allow that. It's, you could be billable and, have a contribute to the success of that project. And I think that's really important, and having that exposure and framework established, and including the computer being set up on day one is really, really important candidate experience. Yes.
I would add just something that TCOM did. We don't do it anymore since we're fully remote and we're not kind of targeting kind of the entry level junior engineers. But what we did was we created a TCOM university. And so it was our intern program. And we would bring in about 8 students every summer. And the goal was for them to learn what we did, right? And so for one, it was a great chance for us because we got to practice our documentation and our training on people who knew nothing about TCOM or about what we did. But the type of engineering that we do, so we do telecom, ICT, security, audiovisual, acoustics, network, a lot of that is still not taught in schools, right? And so we would find electrical, mechanical, whatever engineering student wanted to join, and we would say, your job for the next 8 weeks is just learn and give us feedback. Is the documentation working? Is the training working? And so it was kind of twofold. They got to learn, and we got a test group to practice our training on. And then we did that for many years. A lot of them turned into really great engineers that joined our team. But the marketing that would go back on campus, and professors knew about us and students knew about us, and it just created this really great buzz and brand recognition for our company.
And I would say too, pay attention to association resources. I chair a mentorship protege. It's a one-to-one offered through SMPS, as a Society for Marketing Professional Services. But what happens within the program is a senior level person is matched with an entry level person, and that sticks. And that's actually how I became chair of the program, is that my protege had been chairing it. Somebody had to step down and she needed a legacy person to step in. So, it really is finding that connection that can pull you up and help you achieve your goals.
Awesome. Any other questions in the room? All right. Well, I think we're right at time. So if you want more of video podcasting, that's my session immediately after this across the hall. So see you over there. And thanks again for joining us today for this lunch panel.
All right.
Thank you both. Thanks again.
Thank you for joining us today on the Bold Brand Show. For all of today's show notes and links to our sponsors, head over to boldbrand.show. Be sure to subscribe to our email newsletter where I'll update you on the latest episodes and other exciting things happening at Bold Brand. If you liked today's episode, do me a favor and share this episode with a colleague. Over at boldbrand.show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts, including YouTube, where you can watch full versions of each episode and join the conversation by commenting below. The Bold Brand Show is produced by yours truly, Josh Miles, and is a product of Bold Brand LLC, a branding and video agency for AEC firms based in Denver, Colorado. Visit boldbrand.com to learn more, or hit that orange button up top to schedule a time to chat about your branding or video project. Catch us next time where we chat with another bold innovator in the AEC industry. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.